2003. And there are people here who are brand new friends to Sravasti Abbey, and that's how the Abbey operates, always welcoming new friends as a home for all spiritual, a spiritual home for all beings. So our purpose today is to recall, to thank, to rejoice, and to rededicate to the Abbey's intent to create peace in a chaotic world. And so thousands of people have touched the Abbey and have been touched by the Abbey. And we will first invite the abbess, who is the founder of this whole thing.
Welcome, everybody.
And in fact, I know there are people here today who have never met our abbess, so let me introduce you, please. Our founder, our abbess, our teacher, Venerable Thupten Chödrön.
So she wrote out a script for me, which I'm sure I will not follow. So just, get used to it. Okay. Yeah, we go through this every time. Yeah. Okay, so what's on? Okay. I'll invite the abbess enter. Set motivation. Okay. So this is the important part, to set our motivation, because our motivation is the most important aspect of whatever we do. Yeah, it's not how we look and what other people say about us and if we're famous or whatever. It's what's really going on in our mind and what is motivating us to speak or to act or to spend some time ruminating on a negative thought. So we want to always take some time at the beginning to really cultivate a good motivation. So let's start with watching our breath for a couple of minutes, let the mind settle, and then I'll lead you through very short times to generate a good motivation. So today we're celebrating the Abbey's 20th anniversary. And so our motivation today needs to go back to the motivation for the existence of the Abbey, which needs to go back to the motivation for the founding of the monastic community in this world. And that goes back to the Buddha's awakening, which goes back to the Buddha's practice over great lengths of time in the past. And it keeps going back and back. And so what we're trying to do here, coming up to the present, is to continue the Buddha's teachings, to make them present in this world, because there's something that can help us calm our mind, generate love and compassion and altruism, which we can see are so badly needed in our world today. And to establish the Buddha Dharma, the Buddha's teachings in this world, we need a Sangha community, a community of monastics, and of course, we need monasteries and temples, places where people can gather and practice and learn the teachings. And so this process of setting up physical places, creating communities, teaching the Dharma, practicing it, this has been going on for centuries, for millennium, for eons. And so we are picking up the ball now, today, and continuing this incredibly virtuous project to contribute to peace in the minds of ourselves, other living beings, and the world. So with this motivation to subdue our own ignorance, clinging attachment, and anger, and to help others do the same, then we will celebrate today and really get in touch with our roots and our the motivation that has been carrying the Buddha's teachings along since beginningless time. So have that kind heart that wants to make a contribution to this. Okay.
So we'll start actually with a 15-year-old video of Venerable Children answering the question, what is the purpose of Sravasti Abbey?
So what's the purpose of Sravasti Abbey? It's as a home for the monastics in the West. There are many Dharma centers in the West, in the Tibetan tradition, but there's not a training monastery where people who are monastics or people who want to become monastics or explore monasticism can come and train and can learn and study and practice the Dharma. So that's the purpose. But it also has a very much broader purpose than that, because by having a monastic community, then you have a center, a physical center as well as a spiritual center of Buddhism residing in a place. Because they say that the Dharma flourishes in a land when there is a monastic community of 4 or more fully ordained people. And so the monastery, the abbey, acts as a focal point, not only for Buddhists, but I think
for other people as well. We've had so many people come here and tell us that just knowing that we're here, living in ethical conduct, training our minds in love and compassion and wisdom, just knowing there's a group of people who is doing that helps them. And it gives them optimism and hope in their lives. And many of the people who say that are not even Buddhist. You know? And so the Abbey's mission is not just to serve the monastic community, but to serve all of society. The Abbey's broader purpose is for the benefit of all sentient beings, now in this life, and also to help people create wholesome karma and wholesome actions that will lead them on the path to full enlightenment.
You don't believe in aging? That shows it. Yeah, we were looking at some of the pictures the other day, Venerable Semke and I, going, who are those young people in the picture? Yeah. Okay, you too will have the opportunity to do that. Okay, so now she says, okay, I have some time to reflect on 20 years and talk some more again about the purpose of the Abbey. So when I stumbled across Buddha Dharma quite by accident, I found a flyer in a bookstore in Los Angeles. And that flyer completely changed my life. So if you think little things don't matter, remember that. So I went to this course. It was outside of LA, where I lived at the time, and it was taught by 2 Tibetan lamas. And I was really impressed with what they said, because they said that we don't have to believe what they say. Oh, good. Yeah. They said, think about, what you hear, think about. If it makes sense, use it. If it doesn't make sense, leave it aside. So I thought about the teachings. They made sense. When I practiced the meditations, it helped me. So, I just kept going, and I decided, and this was 1975, there were very few, Buddhist places in the States at that time, not hardly anything in the Tibetan tradition. So I quit my job. I was a teacher, elementary school teacher in LA City schools. I wouldn't do that now. Not how they treat teachers now. Anyway, that's a digression. So I quit my job. I went to Nepal at the monastery, decided to ordain, and, wound up ordaining. And at that time, because the Tibetans had fled from the Chinese Communist occupation in 1959, they were just getting themselves established in exile, and they were very poor. They had no money, so we lived in the monastery. Forget about flush toilets. There was a pit in the ground and 2 boards across it, and you had to be very careful at the middle of the night if you were going out. So we were there. I loved it, and just the teachings, the life, it was wonderful. But it was difficult being the first generation of Western practitioners, because there was nothing set up for us. They were just setting up things for the Tibetan refugees. That was the priority at that time. So we had to find our own way. The lamas were very happy to teach us, but we were expected to find, to finance our own food and clothing and shelter and transportation and everything like that. Most of us were young, freshly out of school, did not have a lot of money. And, it was difficult because we had visa problems and health problems and money problems and all of that kind of stuff. But we loved the Dharma. Yeah, that was no problem. That was trying to show us how to get out of our problems. And then our teachers started to be invited to open Dharma centers in the West. So Dharma centers are they're different from monasteries. Yeah, they're for the public, for the lay people to come. You may have 1 or 2 monastics, maybe 3 monastics there who conduct the programs, but there's no program for monastic education at the Dharma centers. The chief audience there is the public and the lay followers. So we were sent out to work in the Dharma centers. I was just a baby nun when I was sent to Italy. And, other people, Venerable Sangha Kadro was a little bit older than I was. She was sent to England, where at least she knew the language. I wasn't that fortunate, but yeah. But this kind of thing kept going year after year after year, where the Tibetans, because they were refugees, were seeking financial support from the Westerners, but the Western Sangha itself had no financial support. We were on our own, okay? And so some people wound up having to come back to the West and get jobs in order to then go back to India and study some more in India. It doesn't, keeping your ordination is very difficult if you have to go to a 9 to 5 job in the West. Not just difficult, virtually impossible, okay? But that was the situation for many people. And unfortunately, all these years later, it's still the situation. Yeah. Anyway, our teachers did start, setting up some monasteries. And Venerable Sangha Kadro and I were both living in one in France in the early 80s. And I loved living in the monastery with other monastics, having teachings 5 days a week. It was wonderful, yeah. But again, very difficult to sustain it financially. So I had this thought, it was there in my mind from very early on that I would like to set something up where Western monastics could come and get monastic training, not only Dharma training, but specifically monastic training, and where they could be supported so they didn't have to go get 9 to 5 jobs or 5 to 9 jobs if you're working graveyard, to support themselves. So I had that dream, for a long time. And over the years, I would talk to some of my other monastic friends and see if we could work together to start something. And so with one friend in the late 90s, we were going to work together, and then she got cancer. And so that didn't work out. Then I was working with a Theravada monk who was coming back from Asia, and we thought to set something up with multiple traditions. And we wound up staying at a Chinese monastery, so we were going to do 3 traditions. And that didn't turn out so well because the Chinese monastery had their own thing going on. And so then I'm wondering what oh, what do I do? Because I had been living in Seattle for quite a while, teaching there. I had left Seattle. I had no place to live now. And then I got a letter or an email or a phone call from Dan Black. And he said, you know, come and teach in Boise. And I said, Boise. And he said, Idaho. And I said, potatoes. That's all I knew about Idaho. Now I know a lot more about Idaho and the politics in Idaho. Wow, you are brave to live in Idaho. Anyway, I thought, okay, let's go for the potatoes, because they were very, very sincere. And so I think, Dan, you take over the narrative now.
Dan, come on up. Talk for a few minutes about what inspired your invitation. And we have a couple of photos, actually, of the properties. But
And about driving all over central and southern Idaho looking for land.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
You can use the chair. Yeah.
Yeah. So my version is similar. We were in Missouri, gathered in a circle. Remember, a lot of your students you'd called us together to sort of show us what was trying to happen. And I remember asking, "Do you see it happening here? Is your vision, is this the container to do what you were hoping?" And I remember
Dan, let me stop you.
Sure.
Can you put that microphone up to your mouth so we can hear what you... Yeah,
thank you. Okay. So at any rate, at that moment in Missouri, we asked, is this going to work? And the answer was not really, not likely. Things weren't coming together. So the vision and the reality weren't meshing. And we had all of these sincere students, not just me. There were the only reason I was a little brave to invite venerable children to Idaho was because we had a very sincere group of practitioners in Idaho who were profoundly inspired by the teachings of the Dharma, inspired by venerable children. Several of them had gone to our retreats, and we were fired up. We were ready to take the Dharma to the streets, and but what was happened was that there was great follow through with when venerable children did come to Idaho. We gathered our resources. Jack was always the guy to pick up venerable to the airport. He was the airport driving guy, and he drove her all over town for various things. Susan got all of the postage supplies, and venerable has a lot of correspondence. She's a machine. She's sorry. She creates a lot of paper, and it takes a team to follow that. And then Terry was getting groceries, I think. At some point you were, I remember, maybe it was at the month retreat, but everybody had a job and they were thrilled to do it. And it was our contribution into the pot of a beautiful idea. And this beautiful idea was that the Dharma would spread, that anger and attachment can be alleviated. We can reduce these obscurations. We can make a nice place. And I remember being most inspired, I think, by the theme of friendliness, just common sense friendliness among ourselves. And this is the job of the monastics, to teach us these things. And we took them to heart. And so we tried, and then we tried to find a place that was suitable. And that was a process also of discussion, because as we were driving, it was real time, like, that won't work, that's too steep. We're going to have elderly monastics here. We're going to have, we may have a lot of people, so we need a septic drain field. We had to educate ourselves. With every trip, we learned something more about what the future place should have. We didn't find it, but we checked off all the boxes. And we're so happy to have then, almost like magic, a phone call from north in Coeur d'Alene area. Please come. We think we have something up here. I mean, we're all very excited, and we wanted to see the Abbey be a container for this flourishing. And we're so happy that you found it.
A couple of the photos, actually they found property and they made offers on property.
This one? Gorgeous. Totally gorgeous. Do you have the postcard?
This is Peter Aronson's version of
Triple gem.
And you can see me up in the upper right-hand corner looking at the cowboy saying, yeah. Oh, yeah. In the place, they had all sorts of stuffed animal heads. Yeah. We made an offer or a bid on that property, but they wanted way, way, way too much, you know. And then we found another place. Do you have a picture of that place? Oh, it was beautiful. It was in Cascade, was it? Yeah, and they had elk, you know, herds of elk, and it was gorgeous. And a well, that one well was 500 and some feet deep, another one was 800 and some feet deep. No electricity, no telephone out at the end of the road, but it was gorgeous. And we made an offer on that, and again, they turned it down. So we said, okay. So then, okay, I'm supposed to talk some more?
how did the Abbey end up here? People
Yes,
ask that all the time.
I'm gonna tell
Okay.
you. She's heard the story how many times? So, yeah, so Dan and I are driving all over the place. He has patience like amazing, you know, the perfection of patience as we're driving all over. And then we got, I don't know that we didn't really have email in those days. No, maybe we did. Anyway, we got an email from Susan, who was going to be here today, but she just had a hip replacement, so she can't be. And from Susan and her friend Barbara. And they were living up in Cataldo. And they said, you know, we're looking for places. And Susan sent me this beautiful picture. And she said, we're not going to get this one, but it's beautiful. Yeah. And the reason we weren't getting it was shown in the picture because the building went like this, like it was smiling at you, but sagging in the middle. So we said, no. So then Susan sent, she had a realtor. So she gave me the website of the realtor. I'm looking. I love windows, as if you couldn't tell, in all the buildings around here. So I saw this one place. All the listings were in Idaho except one. And the one in Washington State, beautiful. I mean, there was a garden and then there was a building with so many windows. And I said, wow. And then I looked at the price and I said, wow. But we decided to come look at it anyway. Okay. So my friend Jampa from Canada picked me up at the airport. We drove up here. We looked around the place. We loved it. We thought it was gorgeous. It really had what we were looking for: long views, long distance, forest, land, nature. You know, it was beautiful. And so I thought, okay, well, let's check this out some more. So we went back to Susan's because Susan had been collecting the planning and zoning regs for all the local counties, so we would have this ready if we found someplace. So I looked in Pandaray County for the P&Z code, and there was none. And I said, I was really disappointed. I said, Susan, you weren't able to get this? Because we have to see what loops we have to jump through to, if we were going to look at this property. And she said, they don't have a PNC code. You can do what you want. So we came back up here, checked out the knapweed some more, and made an offer. Well, actually, there's a cute story here, because the first time we saw it, we didn't know anything about making offers on property. We didn't know that the buyer and the seller are not supposed to talk to each other. It's just the realtors that are supposed to talk to each other. Okay, so we were walking all around. Our realtor, we wanted to go up to the upper meadow again. She was tired. She knew we would go home after that. So she said, okay, I'm going, do that. So we went up to the top of the meadow and we thought, gee, I wonder if we could, do something, or well, let's go. We wanted to go check out the barn again, because maybe we could, this was how naive we were, maybe we could make the barn into a meditation hall. Yeah. Yeah, with the skunks and the mice and everybody else who already lives in the barn. Anyway, so we walk back down to the barn, and Harold is there. He's the owner, Harold and Vicky, really nice elderly couple. They wanted to move because they needed to be near the city and medical facilities, but they love the land. So Jamba and I are talking to Harold, and Jamba also doesn't know that he's not supposed to talk about money with the seller. But, he doesn't know. So he says, well, you're asking, what was it? $499.99. And he said, we don't have that much, but we can give $200K, as a deposit. And Harold also didn't know that he wasn't supposed to talk to the buyers. And Jamba said, we don't have the money to pay the whole thing. So Harold said, well, we'll carry the mortgage for you. There's somebody who knows what it means. Yeah. Oh, okay. So we signed the paper. Not there, but we did some more research. I was leading a retreat at Cloud Mountain. Some of the people were there at that time, and we discovered that there was radon on the land. So I didn't know what radon was. I didn't know how septic system worked. I just knew you flush the toilet and it works. You turn on the handle and water comes out. I did not know anything. Okay, I had never owned a house. I had never owned a car. I had never owned anything. Loans? What in the world is a loan? What is it? Buying property? Well, I did a crash course. So I was leading this retreat, and in the break times, I was going and calling the lawyer who was a friend in Boise, who walked us through the steps, and I was calling people to find out what radon is and how you put a radon system in the building. And then I was running back to the meditation hall and teaching about having a calm, relaxed mind. And then break time, I'd go back to the telephone and, Anyway, so we got the property, or we signed the thing, and then we moved in, which I think Venerable Jigme is going to tell you, but I got to tell a little bit first. We moved in, and the first residents, me, okay, and Achala and Manjushri. These were not the deities, Achala and Manjushri. They were our two cats. months. And so these were the original residents of the Abbey. And I remember sitting in Ananda, that was the building that was there at that time, and sitting there one evening going, how in the world are we going to make these mortgage payments every month? You know, how? Where is the money going to come from? Yeah. I mean, I had been a nun since I was 26. I didn't have some storehouse of cash. And, you know, the group always contributed, but we certainly didn't have that kind of money. And I just sat there and then I said, okay, I have to take refuge in the Buddha Dharma Sangha. That's the only way this is actually going to happen. So I took refuge. And then we moved in, and Venerable Jigme is going to tell you all about that, or Venerable Semke, or both of them.
So we'll have Venerable Semke and Venerable Jigme come up. Thank you, Venerable Children. We'll have Venerable Pelge, if you'll take Venerable Children's chair, and she can have a seat on the side. We have the photos of the moving day, so while we're doing our little set change here.
That's the picture in the that I saw on the website. Look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah?
So Venerable Jigme will sit in the center. Venerable Jigme and Venerable Semke in the center. Venerable Pelge will take Venerable Children's chair and they'll move them. And so these are the photos. That was where the Buddha now is. That was the original kitchen. That's now an office. That's the downstairs room. And that's Harold and Vicky with Venerable Children, the original owners. And so we're actually going to start this with an old video as well. This is Venerable Jigme telling the story of how they moved in 10 years ago and her reflection at that time. Venerable, yeah.
A friend of mine, Richard, and myself, we rented a U-Haul and loaded up the U-Haul with many items that people in Seattle offered to Venerable and to the Abbey. And there were maybe 5 other people that came, and I think the thing that I remember most about those 2 days, although we worked very hard to get her settled in, it was such a joyous occasion. Everybody was so harmonious and smiling, and it was just quite beautiful how everybody worked together. And what strikes me when I think back on that, it's the same way that we try to live here today. Especially when there's a big project, we all kind of drop the things that we're involved in and come together. We call it swarming. Everybody comes together and we all pitch in and get something, whatever it is, done. And it's done with such good energy, and everybody's happy to do it. And we get to experience such support from one another when we do that. So at the very beginning, Venerable set the tone on how we would participate in offering service here at the Abbey. And even through all of our activities, and you know, when you move into a place, there's kind of a lot of chaos. Even so, you know, Venerable really kept the form of, you know, we offer our food and we say our prayers and are kind to one another, and you know, we do our meditation. And so even throughout all of that, she still, of course, maintained the form and was such a good example for us to, you know, how this was going to begin. The most important thing is she holds so deeply, if I practice the Dharma and I live ethically, everything that I need will come to me. And from that very first moment of stepping into this place, that strong faith has been with her, and then by extension with all of us. And we are experiencing the truth of that and the result of that. And so it's quite beautiful.
So Venerable Jigme, with reflection, those seeds that were planted the day we moved in, where are we today?
I guess what's most striking to me is that what was experienced that first day in terms of, like I said in the video, the form, the laying down kind of the basis of what we're doing and how we're going to do it, was so clearly articulated and with such joy. When I think about my experience that day, there was all of these things to do and everybody was just so happy. There wasn't one moment of tension or, and I don't know, I think in my life I've never experienced that before, when you're doing a big, moving in thing. And so it was just a joyous experience all the way around. And at the moment that we all got there, she started teaching us about what you do when you're in a monastery. And so starting to dismantle this idea that we walk into that building, it's a house. It is not a house. It is a monastery. And so from the very get-go, we started understanding, what it was going to be and how people were going to be visiting and living there, that it was going to be a different thing than, for me, I had no idea, of course, what that would even look like. But she just so skillfully and joyfully started training us in that. And it was all done with a virtuous mind and so much joyous effort. It was quite beautiful.
Venerable Simke, you were the camera person on that thing, but Helping Hands found the Abbey, Helping Hands moved into the Abbey, Helping Hands have been helping ever since, and you've been the leader of so much of that offering service. If you would just talk about that over the few years, and we do some photos of that are kind of random service photos over time, but tell us about that.
Mission statement. So when you think about the mission statement about, cultivating the fertile soil so that the seeds of the Dharma can be planted and the West be sustained, and then this flourishing monastic community, Venerable, this is a tall order here. She kind of jumped off the cliff. And she jumped off the cliff because, as she said, as Venerable Jigme said, she had this unshakable faith in the three jewels, that if she does what her heart is calling her to do, that the Buddha's going to watch her back. But when it came to her students, I would have to say that maybe that faith wasn't unshakable. We were spread all over the place, and she had moved up to the middle of nowhere. And so we had to make, from the beginning, from 2003, when she moved in here, we began this very loosely structured support of lay students called the Friends of Sravasti Abbey. We had to make a very, very committed intention to help her. Because while she's trying to get this going, she's writing books, she's leading retreats, she's going to receive teachings from her teachers so she continues to grow her own wisdom because she's going to need it. So we had to really watch her back and step up to the plate. And in the beginning, we did a lot of things. You were wearing so many hats, you didn't know what hat you were wearing. And at the same time, while we're building this very small, this net is starting to get cast, because to do a monastery and to support the Dharma in the West, you need inviting generosity. We'd come to these FOSA meetings and try to brainstorm. How do you invite generosity? We're not into fundraising, begging for money. We have to inspire people to be willing to give to this long-term vision. So inviting generosity, how do we do that? We're monastic, we're not supposed to handle money. So we're supposed to inspire people to be willing to give. The Abbey website was already up and running, but it was in its infancy. That was going to be able to say, the Abbey is open for training, open for the Dharma. Please come, be part of this vast, profound place. And then we also had, the whole finances. We have a woman now, Leah, who's been running the accountants for 20 years to handle your money, to be able to use it wisely. We have legal counsel. We needed someone to be able to watch when we sign these contracts for these dear contractors. This is a relationship and you want to know what you're getting yourself into. The relationships are difficult. So we had so many things that we had to support so Venerable could do the training that she wanted to do, the writing, the sharing of the Dharma. And so over the years, this net has been cast far and wide. On the other side of the world, there's this FOSA Singapore that have supported her far even before the Abbey. They have been the most consistent support for the growing of the flourishing of the Dharma in the West. And when she goes there, it's not like you have 35 people at the retreat. You've got 400 people at the retreat. I mean, they understand the importance of the Dharma. And so I wanted to just list some names of people who've been with us as long as the Abbey. They've stepped back, some of them in the past few years, but I want to put their names out here and to really acknowledge their gift. Susan Mitchell, Leah Cossack, Tanya Lasik, Jack Weinberg, Don and Dana Shove, Chris and Dwight, Tracy Morgan, George Chesero Cooney, Tracy Thrasher, Heather Dusher, Richard and Jolene Lee, Ling Po, Xiao Hong, Tenzin, Jesse, Chunfa. I mean, that's just the, I said Donna, yeah. I mean, I can't name them all. I can't name them all, but the net has been cast farther and farther. And now we have offering service Saturdays once a month here. I mean, this is a big place. Sharing the Dharma in the world, outreach to the incarcerated. It's a really, really a big project. So this morning I was in the hall and I said to myself, may every nonprofit organization on this planet that has the aspiration to benefit sentient beings, may they have the kind of support, may they have the kind of volunteers that we've had over the past 20 years. The joyous effort, the fortitude, the wisdom, the talents. You are our wish-fulfilling jewel because you keep giving over and over and over again. And that the way that we repay you is to be able to keep our precepts, to follow and practice the Dharma and try to actualize the Buddha's teachings in our hearts. And offering service is one of the biggest practices to be able to do that. And so we couldn't do this without you. And so it has been a really remarkable journey with you. Thank you.
Let me bring you up. Where are you?
Yeah.
Of course, you can't have a community and a Sangha without feeding them. And Tracy has been our food coordinator for 20 years. I think you filled the cupboard the day they moved in. Is that correct? You and Alice filled that cupboard. And Tracy has coordinated the volunteers. Yeah. You please say something.
Yeah, we moved in. Harold and Vicky had moved out. There were towels in the bathroom, matching towels in the bathroom. There was soap in the bathroom. There was food in the cupboard. There was food in the refrigerator. And we just walked into this place, and moved in, and everything was there. And Tracy, with her friends, was really the force behind that.
Thank you, Venerable. So, yeah, we wanted to be the welcome wagon for the Dharma. But I discovered Venerable and her teachings from a flyer. So I wanted to mention that, that to be so fortunate to find out that this was in the area, there was Buddhism here, but there was no real established monastic tradition or community here. So when I heard about this, I was very excited. I felt that this region in particular at that time really needed love and compassion, understanding, harmony for one another. You know, there was some things going on that were just, needed a good dose of love. And so I didn't know much about Buddhism, frankly, or monasticism. And we did hear pretty early on that, well, there's this this vow not to buy their own food or to go shopping for food. And like Venerable Semke said, that idea was a little surprising. And, how is this going to work? Well, then finding out that this was very deliberate on the part of the Buddha, that the monastics, they don't charge for teaching. There's no business transaction going on there. And yet that means they don't have an income. And they generate a lot of merit from teaching. And the idea is that the lay people generate merit from helping to take care of their teachers and the Sangha. And so this is where we could give back, where we could support what they're doing and be a part of it and feel that, build that relationship with the Sangha. And so then it made sense. And as someone who shops for food for the Abbey, it really gives this feeling of family or closeness that other things like maybe buying tires might not, even though it's very important to buy tires. But so early on we didn't have much of a system. It was kind of random, and there was unfortunately a couple times only one? Oh gosh. Oh, that's good. Okay, so there was some backup food, but that and the carrots in the garden, I think, were half frozen. And yeah. No, we decided, a couple of us, that there needed to be a system. And not only that, but it became apparent very early on that people in Seattle and Idaho and Singapore were relying on us to take care of the Sangha. It was really a responsibility to reciprocate their kindness, since we are here to help take care of the Sangha with food and prerequisites. So never forgot Singapore, and I know we kind of stole her from you, and we stole her from Idaho too, and Seattle. So that is something we do on your behalf as well. So there's so many volunteers, and so much food comes up here, sometimes too much food even, that seeing the causes and effects of a virtuous activities. Sometimes there's little hiccups in the system to get food up here. And once I was wondering, where's so-and-so? I think they were going to shop this week. And someone drove, a group of people drove from Seattle with a car full of food. If anybody remember that? Yeah, they stopped, they unloaded the food, which just a lot of food, and got back in the car and drove back to Seattle. And without even a cup of tea, I think. Yeah, they're just like, they just felt this inspiration. So, check my script. What's that? I'm out of time. Oh, okay, I'm out of time. Anyway, thank you everyone who helped, or who contributes to the food fund, or does shopping, or even brings some stuff up.
So I'm going to ask Venerable Tarpa to come up and have these folks change seats. And while Venerable Tarpa is coming up, we're going to watch the last bit of Venerable Jigme's video.
When Richard and I drove away that Sunday night, it was quite, it was actually sad to me. It's like this big, huge place, and now we're leaving her, and she's all there just with Achi and Manju, the two cats. And it was like, you know, I had no idea what is she thinking? You know, what is the vision here? I had no idea. And of course, even then too, it was like, gosh, where's she going to get these monastics? You know, that came up over and over. Where are they coming? You know, where do you get them? You know, do you mail order or call in somewhere, or how do you get them? It's so interesting.
So it took 3 years to grow a monastic, and Venerable Tarpa was the first one. And so I just asked her what the steps were that took her from being someone who supported the Abbey to wanting to ordain.
In listening to this, I'm thinking that I'm really moved by some of the things people have said, and I realized that the Carmelite nuns were actually praying that some religious group would move into this area. And they feel like the Abbey was the answer to their prayers, because they also, as Tracy was saying, were noticing that there were problems in the area. So maybe that helped. And when Dan was speaking, just how crazy we were into this project. I mean, even in Seattle. So Venerable Simke came first, and then I moved here. And there were other people in and out, but it was kind of the three of us for a while. And even in that early days, we were like kind of zealous. I would say what Dan described, I would say we were kind of zealous. And even a nun came here and said, you know, you two better slow down. You won't last 3 years. So I would say for myself, I was kind of the unlikely one that you would think of who would be the first person to ordain here. And so how did that happen? Because most of us didn't really know any monastics. I knew Venerable Chodron and Venerable Tien, who's actually in many of our photos and was part of all this. But why would you say it was unlikely that it would be? Well, you could ask some of the other people around here. I would say Venerable Chodron did not think I was going to be the first one. I don't know. Well, when Venerable taught in Seattle, I sat in the back for the first 2 years and never said anything. And then I didn't really ever volunteer with DFF because I was going to the Sakya Monastery also. But I remember I met Venerable the last year she was in Seattle, and I remember I was so inspired by this vision. I really believed in this vision, and this is why it worked. But I don't think anybody knew that but me, actually, because I didn't talk to Venerable Chodron. I never talked to her. Even after she moved here, I had never written her email or called her. I only called her. I remember the first time I called her because my teachers, when I wanted to move here, they told my other two teachers, said to wait. And this is the first time I ever talked to you, really. I called you up. I think I was crying. I said, and you said, what did they say? They said, wait. Well, they didn't say no. So, anyway, it was kind of unlikely. But anyway, how did it happen? It was this vision. And I think this is what inspired many of us. I never understood why everybody from DFF didn't move over here. I was actually kind of shocked. I thought they were all going to move over here. We were just on fire. But that's the beginning part. But what made it really happen was, for me personally, I had that motivation. I wanted to help this vision. I didn't know how I was going to look for myself because I didn't know about monastic life. But what really happened was, one was meeting Venerable Chodron and how she was setting things up, and Venerable Tien, and then the Chinese bhikshunis came. And there was one time when 4 of them came, and it was so powerful for all of us here. I had never met a group of people who are so strong and so humble and so amazing. And they have this expression that when you grow a sangha, it's like growing trees, and everybody grows up straight. So I feel like this is what works here. What the Buddha set up is what works here, and this is what makes it work. We have the Vinaya, which on paper isn't that impressive, but when you live it, when you do these rites, when you do these things, and everything that Venerable set up, she was setting this up from the beginning, but we didn't really know. And this is why it works. All these people who have some karma, they fall into this beautiful system that the Buddha set up for the Sangha, and it helps us all to flourish. We can see it in each other. It allows us to grow ourselves in a way that is, it keeps us here. You may get here, but then you have to stay. Like I remember I was inspired to build the monastery, but then I went through this phase, okay, we've built it, but how in the heck am I ever going to last living here? Like now I have to figure out how to grow in order to live in a monastery. And so that's what the Buddha provided us, and Venerable Chodron with her guidance taught us. So that's my reply. That the teachings are there, the guidance from the Buddha is there, his love, his compassion is there, and then it's put into this beautiful system that the Buddha created for us, the Vinaya.
Lee, it didn't stop there. Venerable Lomsel, can you? Yeah. So I'm going to take a seat for a second. I believe it was one of Venerable Chodron's teachers, I think, I don't remember who it was, that said, for a monastery, what you need is a teacher. And a teacher we have had from the very beginning, as you can hear from now, but our teacher has also invited some extraordinary teachers to be a part of this community, or to share the Dharma with this community. And this land has been blessed by very, very many teachers. I'm going to show a few photos. It's not going to match the names that I read out, but we could not have this program of 20 years without acknowledging the incredible blessing of the beings who have walked this land and taught us. So Venerable Damcho, if you'll just show the slides, let me just read the names of the teachers who have come. I'm sorry, Venerable Lamso. Ganden Tripa Losang Tenzin Rinpoche, before he was the Ganden Tripa. Kabje Ling Rinpoche, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, Panchen Ocho Rinpoche, Khensur Jampa Tekchak Rinpoche, Khensur Wangdak Rinpoche, Geshe Lunduk Sopa, Geshe Yeshe Topke, excellent Geshe teachers, including Geshe Tenzin Chodrak, Venerable Master Wuyen, Venerable Master Heng Ching, Venerable Mingja, Venerable Jinde, Venerable Sangye Kadro, and Her Eminence Damo Kusho Sakya, Professor Jeffrey Hopkins, Alex Berzin, and other eminent American scholars, including Jan Willis and Guy Newland, and that's not the whole list. So the number of teachers who have brought the Dharma here along with our resident teacher is just astonishing and must be regarded and remembered. Of course, you have to have buildings. Venerable Samten.
So first of all, a meditation hall was needed. And who in the world would take a garage and turn it into a meditation hall? Because in North America, the most prized possession, more so than one's spouse, is a car. And so Heraldina, the 1977 Chevrolet truck that all of the contractors and all of the subcontractors drool over here, that truck was given the boot. And this beautiful log structure was turned into our meditation hall. Are there some photos?
Yeah, there's some photos.
And Venerable Children unfortunately had an architect friend who helped redesign the hall. And it is our most treasured building here. And it will continue to be most treasured because this is where 98% of us have been ordained. So there it is. And what year did it reach completion? 2004. First thing you did. Okay. Well, then, it's not like we like building here. It's not something we do for a hobby. And you might have that impression, but buildings come about when we're forced to build. We're absolutely forced to build it. So you may have the memory of being over in Ananda for sharing the Dharma Day, and we'd be preparing meals and serving people, at least 34 people eventually. And there were people upstairs, there were people downstairs. In the warm weather, we were out in the veranda. And it became obvious that, we need a kitchen. We need another place to prepare meals. And so where are we going to put this building? And there's not a lot of choices where we are, as you can see. And so we weren't going to tear down our precious beloved meditation hall. No way. So what's the choice? But to move it. Are we going to look at something moving it?
We are, Venerable Lamso. This was a video made by the now Venerable Los Quindoño.
Sravasti Abbey is growing. To accommodate this growth, it is necessary to move the heart of the community, the meditation hall. Precision and teamwork are very evident during the move.
That's just a regular car jack, by the way. The movers are very unhappy that we have the footage of what's going to happen next. You'll see how the building actually contacts the ground.
Some minor obstacles are encountered. They are quickly overcome. Trying to parallel park a building is not easy. Eventually, the building reaches its final destination. The community rejoices. Thank you to everyone who is assisting in making this unique project possible, and to all who support the flourishing of the Dharma in the West.
So the building was cattywampus for quite some time, to use Geshe-la's word, because of those smacks on the ground, but eventually it kind of settled back into place, and I think it's more or less the way it should be. And so that left room to build Chenrezig Hall. And then, of course, we don't really enjoy having teachings and assemblies in a dining room. This is not what was in the plan, but now we've outgrown the capacity of the meditation hall, which also isn't set up to live stream and all of that. So again, we're pushed, and there's no room anymore, even with the resident community, to do long prostrations in the meditation hall. And so this again pushed us to start thinking and planning for the Buddha hall. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how that's Dharma practice. Yeah, so how it's Dharma practice. Well, first of all, you might have the best plan in the world, and you know if you've renovated your home or built a building that what you have planned and what you think is going to happen is not going to happen from one day to the next. And so there has to be this flexibility with everyone here, with the Buddha Hall team and all the residents, to ensure that we accommodate what needs to happen. What's been the best part of this whole process with the Buddha Hall is that the team, which includes Venerable Tarpa, Venerable Children, first of all, Venerable Tarpa, Semke, Venerable Chuni, myself, Venerable Chuni on the IG, and all of the residents, is that we've had a harmonious team. Of course, we don't always agree. Like, why would you choose that color for that countertop? But, you know, in the end, that is not the biggest deal. And also we know that, you know, the building, the way we're building it with the Foz wall, and you'll hear more about that this afternoon, these buildings are being built to last for a very long time. And the other thing that's been so rich with this process is that we're encountering people we would never have met in any other circumstance. So there's all these subcontractors coming up here. And, you know, I have to admit, in some cases, I've been a little bit intimidated by their appearance, you know, the big beard. And in that industry, I think you have to look tough, because otherwise people boss you around. So you have to look tough. And these guys are just softies. They're just softies. Now, I have to admit that the concrete team, I'm glad to know that my ability to swear is nothing compared to them. And the number of times they can fit in that one word in a sentence is totally mind-blowing. And it's just the culture, you know, it doesn't even mean anything anymore. It doesn't mean anything, but they're all very soft. And there's one fellow in particular, I know I'm going longer beyond my time, but there's two main stucco guys. They've done a beautiful job on the stucco, you'll see it. And the one fellow's name is Robert, and he's really a thinker. And when we came back from the evacuation, he said, "Oh, I'm so glad you're all right. We were thinking about you the whole time." And I told him how happy we were about the stucco job. And he said, "You know what? That is so meaningful for us to hear, because that inspires us to do even a better job. We want to have your building looking the way you want it, which is beautiful, for a very long time. And if we can help you achieve that, we're so thrilled." And they kept saying, "We're so glad. We knew the fire came very close, and we were so glad that you're okay." So, you know, you might have a certain view of construction workers. My view has totally changed. And in time, we'll have a very beautiful building. It's going full tilt right now. There's so many subcontractors on site. And we can't wait to show you how it looks this afternoon. So thank you. You've all been a part of this, every single one of you. We couldn't have gotten this far without you. And you're going to help us take it right to the conclusion and to the big celebration that will happen in 2024.
We hope. So here's just a couple of video clips from Chenrezig Hall that illustrates this idea that building is Dharma practice. These were videos Venerable Samten made.
You might think that the sound of big equipment thundering up Country Lane Road en route to the Abbey at 7:40 a.m. would be a source of, well, irritation. On the contrary, this instilled a great deal of excitement and anticipation. This was to be the first of many concrete pours. And the project on this day was to pour the footings for Chenrezig Hall. It was immediately obvious that this crew has a great deal of experience and skill in pouring concrete. In fact, we later learned that this group of people have worked together for about 20 years. The atmosphere was relaxed, and there was the appearance of ease and quiet confidence. It was really lovely to observe the harmony and trust that these people had in each other. Venerable Children and Venerable Tarpa were warned by one of the workers who said, "You know, pouring concrete gets in your blood. You won't want to do anything else." Virgil was very comfortable handing over his gloves to Venerable Children.
Yep. Okay, time is money, Venerable Children.
As Venerable Children has commented on many times, right now the community totals 12 people. We don't need a 10,000 square foot building for 12 people. We do need Shenrezi Hall for the growing monastic community here and the innumerable numbers of people who will come to the Abbey to hear teachings, meditate on them, and offer service. You are invited.
So let's pass this one. Let's go to the next red curtain. Pick up a time a little bit. Yeah, and just, you want to see it? Oh, okay, never mind. Let's watch the snow shovel. It's a beautiful little video. Okay, let's watch it.
Radna Yuval, and it's an honor and a pleasure to be in the Chenrezig Hall and in this stage when it's starting. This is a place full of compassion, full of wisdom, and for me it is a Pure Land. So it's a great opportunity to come to the Sravasti Abbey Pure Land. With this snow, it's really like the snowy mountain Pure Land, even like the Texas. And here we do all practices, and since Dharma pervades everything, even the shoveling snow, it's part of our Dharma practice. It's a great way to help each other and see how a simple act can bring so much happiness for all, and how when we all get together it's not just fun, but it's quite easy. So come on over. Mani Bemeo.
And since we've practically outgrown this building, let's go to the next video.
Okay, so this is stake number 1, and on the plans you can see right here, that's the very corner, the front of the building where the front door is. So just now we were excavating the front door of the Buddha Hall. Yeah! Yay! Yeah! Now we're at the second entrance of the Buddha Hall, and if you turn around, you're going to see the view that you will see from the deck.
So now we're in the Buddha Hall,
and we will make a half bow to the Buddha.
Hello, and this is Tipton Dancho for Buddha Hall News Network reporting live from Sravasti Abbey. We're on the coldest day of the month where we have incredible wind chill. A group of us were just outside digging in the snow with spoons. Venerable children, please tell us, what was that all about?
Well, this morning we got the building permit for the Buddha Hall. Yay! And all of us were so eager. We've been waiting for so long to be able to start construction that we went out there and we didn't have any tools, but we wanted to break ground, except the ground was covered with snow. And because we didn't have tools, we took spoons and we were digging the snow out to start the Buddha Hall.
Yeah! Yeah! Yeah!
Ah. That seemed like a long time ago. Venerable Rinchen, would you come share with us? And Venerable Munlam, going to come on up too, wherever you are. Yeah, the question being, well, you know the question, tell us.
So, unlike many people, I was not aware of the Abbey or Buddhism in 2003 or even 2013. And so being here and, seeing all of this now, helping put together some of this and really just looking at all of your faces and knowing so many of you from the photo library that I work with and photos from 10 or 15 or 20 years ago. It's really amazing. I really appreciate all of the causes and conditions that have gone into building this place and keeping this place going. And knowing that as long as we practice well and continue sharing the Dharma, we can trust that those causes and conditions will continue to the future. But it's not just what has come into the Abbey, but I'm also inspired by what has really come out of the Abbey. That over the past 20 years, Venerable Children and many other monastics have shared the Dharma away from the Abbey around the world. People from all over the world have come here to receive teachings, and everyone at the Abbey supports Venerable Children and also Venerable Kadro in writing, editing books, teaching online and Zoom. And knowing that that's really why the Abbey exists. It's amazing to be a monastic. It's amazing to go from being a safe participant to reading Venerable Children's books to now being here and doing what I can to really help her teach and continue sharing the Dharma. And so when I think about the future of the Abbey, it's not just about how the monastic community is going to grow, how we're going to keep making more buildings, but how we're going to continue to share the Dharma, to release books and videos and go out into the world and teach. And so it is wonderful to be a part of that. I really appreciate all of you who have contributed to getting us to where we are now. And I look forward to being part of the effort to really pay back all of what I have received from all of you in the Abbey into really paying this forward.
And this is, should I head over there? Yeah. Okay.
Center seat again. Would you take the center seat again?
Wondering why I have this special seat? It's because I have problems with my spine and my legs. You know, that thing called aging.
So, Venerable, it's incredibly inspiring, the positive impact, the tremendous positive impact that the Abbey has had on the world over these past 20 years, and that it's had on each and every one of us individually, and on so many individuals that aren't here today. And so we really all aspire to continue to create the causes and conditions for the Abbey to flourish and thrive and grow for at least the next 20 years. 22,000, okay, thank you. Because I mean, 20 sounds pretty darn short. 20, we aspire to continue to create the causes and conditions for the Abbey to thrive for the next 22 millennia. And we're just going to offer one kata at this moment, and this is on behalf of everyone here and behalf of all of your students worldwide. Thank you so much. May you continue to live long and with good health, and continue to teach us and actualize your aspirations to lead all beings to awakening.
To continue to boss you around.
And if you will indulge us to let us chant the prayer that Geshe Topki wrote for the good health and long life of our Abbess Venerable Triptych children. The words are up here. Having become a follower of the great sage's word, you've upheld the treasury of the precious teachings in all those places where the light of Dharma has not spread. May you live long, illuminating like a lamp. Having become a follower of the great sage's word, you've upheld the treasury of the precious teachings in all those places where the light of Dharma has not spread. May you live long, illuminating like a lamp. Having become a follower of the great sage's word, you've upheld the treasury of the precious teachings in all those places where the light of Dharma has not spread. May you live long, illuminating like a lamp.
So it's only fair to say that all of this has come from my teachers. Yeah, that without, I had the most amazing fortune, being totally ignorant, to stumble into some of the really great teachers that are no longer with us, or they're with us, but now they're, instead of being 70 and 80, they're now 30 and 40. Yeah, so you know you first them when they're old, and then you know them again when they're young. Yeah, but it's really due to the kindness of my teachers. And when we saw the pictures of everybody's ordination going back and ended with the Buddha, didn't you see very clearly how much the Buddha, who lived, 25 years ago, 25 centuries, ago, how much that has influenced the world and influenced millions and zillions of people. Yeah. And so that our gratitude for the Buddha, for what they say, turning the Dharma wheel, is immense. Yeah. And that's why you'll see when you go out, we have, it kind of looks like it's going to be a parapet. It just looks like this right now. But on top of it, there will be a Dharma wheel and 2 deer. And it goes back to the Buddha's first teaching after he attained awakening in the deer park in India, where he turned the wheel of Dharma, in other words, set the teachings in motion. And so really everything we're able to do here is because of centuries and centuries of previous monastics who have kept the precepts, who have taught the Dharma, who have passed the lineages on. And it's only because of their effort that, people like me who just kind of, what's going on here, stumble into this, and have our whole lives changed by it. Yeah. So we have to thank the Buddha and the whole lineage in all the different traditions that have maintained it, as well as our teachers, and especially His Holiness the Dalai Lama.
And so we'll finish this part of our morning program with dedication. Can we do that? Okay. Do the advertisement.
Yeah, no program's complete without an advertisement. So what we're advertising here, look at this. It's a spectacular 2024 calendar, which you're never going to get. All the other calendars that are arriving at your house doesn't compare to this one. This one is produced by the Tibetan Nuns Project in India. Yeah. And they are our sisters. And it started, at the the Tibetan women have always been very active, but then they decided to get together and really do something for the Tibetan nuns. And so they've established several nunneries now where the nuns, believe it or not, will get the same education as the monks. Yeah. So every year they put out a calendar. Yeah. And with these beautiful pictures. Okay. And so you can get to see them and see what they're doing and pick up a calendar for only $12 plus whatever you want to donate to Tibetan Nuns Project. After that, they're in the room downstairs with the books. So please help yourself. Okay. I guess you would
go to
dial Tibetan Nuns Project. Yeah, dial it. Okay. Okay, so at this point, I better turn it over.
We're going to turn it over to Shantideva.
Okay.
So if you have not been a part of this dedication prayer before, you'll know that the tune is very familiar. It is a brilliant and beautiful aspiration, borrowing a tune from making prayers that our nation actually may be a leader in this way.
Beware, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer of an evil or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid and make people think of benefiting each other for as long as space endures and as long as living beings remain. Until then, may I to abide to dispel the misery of the world. May the deeds of explaining and practicing the Dharma, done by groups supporting the teachings and their upholders, who spread the view of dependent arising and nonviolent actions in the 10 directions, and especially at Sravasti Abbey in the West flourish.
And so, hey, we're not too far off our schedule, a little bit. Really, actually, to continue our wish to bring peace to the world, Venerable Sangye Kajo has very kindly offered to lead us in a very short Tara practice, both for Tara being the protector deity of Sravasti Abbey, but also especially for the conflict and the violence in the world today, right now. We're going to take a break. Lunch will be at 12:30. So it will take about a 15-minute break and come back, and Venerable SK will modulate the time as needed so that we can do some prayers together, share some Dharma together. Then we'll have lunch. Thanks to everyone who's come in. Welcome, welcome, who came in since the beginning. And let me also turn everyone's attention again. There is the museum is in the Kuan Yin room, where there are slideshows on every single computer has a different slideshow of photographs of the last 20 years of Sravasti Abbey. After lunch, we'll talk a little bit more about the Buddha Hall, and we'll do live tours of the Buddha Hall, and then we'll have time to share and spend time together. And at the end of that time, we'll come back together and do a final kind of chant. But that's the plan for the afternoon. But let's take a break. We'll come back in about 15 minutes and do a few prayers, and then we'll have lunch. lead us in a few minutes. If there's a request that if the fans could be turned down a little bit, that would be helpful. I don't know who does that or how it's done. Huh? It is done? Okay. Okay. And then where's Dan? Yeah. I've been here before, so I want to introduce Venerable Sangye Kadro. She has been a resident since 2018, something like that. Anyway, we're very, very privileged not to have just our founding teacher who's been here for a long time, but now we have extraordinarily qualified teachers who are also parts of our community. So if you haven't been to one of Venerable Sangye Kadro's courses, you'll have an opportunity in the future. Thank you so much for leading us today.
So we thought it would be nice to have a short practice of Tara. And let me introduce Tara for those who haven't met her before. She's a Buddha, female Buddha, which is rare. And Tara is the protector of the Abbey. It's a bit like in the Catholic tradition, they have patron saints. That might be familiar. So we have this special relationship with Tara. And Tara, there's a painting here of Tara. There's actually not just one Tara, but 21 Taras. And each one has a different function or a different way in which they give help. But Tara is someone, I mean, she's very popular in Tibet. And people rely on Tara for all kinds of things, from really practical things, like recovering from illness or having children or success in business. But her real function is to help us cultivate wisdom and compassion and other positive qualities. And for example, when we had to evacuate last month because of the big fire nearby, and we were scattered here and there, but sometimes connecting with each other online, and we did the practice of Tara, really requesting Tara's help to protect the Abbey and enable us to come back together and have our lifestyle here. And Venerable Chudran wrote this prayer. It's actually called a song to Mummy Tara. That was what Lama Yeshe called her, because Tara is said to be the mother of all Buddhas, and Lama Yeshe called her Mummy Tara, someone we can rely on. So back in 2016, Venerable was requested by some friends of the Sravasti Abbey in Russia to compose a prayer to help, clear away difficulties in the world and bring about peace. So there's this beautiful prayer. You could actually get a copy of it down in the place downstairs where the books are. So I'll just read it, and then we'll do a little bit of practice together of Tara. Om Tare Tutare Ture Soha. The dancing gait of your peaceful, smiling form signals hope, cheerfulness, and kindness. We need this now in these times when those who claim to be leaders are pulling our world into hate and violence with their distorted views. Not allowing ourselves to be adversely influenced and remaining firm in virtue, we will recall the support of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and we will stand together with all people who seek peace. Having a sense of our own integrity, we will cultivate tolerance, compassion, forgiveness, and generosity. With consideration for others, we will comport ourselves in ways that inspire empathy, reconciliation, peace, and kindness. Tam, with the light of your inner joy radiating throughout the universe, please inspire us to act with compassion in this dreamlike world. So I won't read the whole thing because we're a little short of time, but you can get a copy of it and read it on your own. So these times we are in are difficult, especially with the ongoing war in Ukraine and the recently started war in Israel and Gaza, which hopefully will end soon. But there's just so many problems in our country and around the world. So it's very comforting to know there are beings like Tara that we can call on and pray to. And so Tara is said to protect from all different kinds of problems, both external problems, but also internal problems, because that's the real problem. The real problem is the distorted views and disturbing emotions in our mind, like anger, hatred, attachment, self-centeredness, and ignorance. All of these problems really are rooted in ignorance about the true nature of things. The Tara represents the wisdom that clears away ignorance, as well as these other sorts of problems. So I invite you to join with me. We'll recite together the homage to the 21 Taras. There's copies of this red covered book on the tables beside you, and it's really up to you if you want to join in these prayers or not. Feel free to do your own prayers, your own practices if you prefer. So we'll recite this together in English. This is a practice that's done here in the Abbey every morning before we eat breakfast. we recite these praises to Tara and dedicate for peace in the world. And then we'll recite some mantra, a little bit of mantra of Tara as well, and then dedicate the merit. So if you are familiar with Tara, you can visualize her in the space in front of you, or you can just focus your mind on the tanka, the painting of Tara here in front. And feel her compassionate presence. She's like a mother, just as a mother loves her children and is totally dedicated to taking care of them. Tara is like a mother for all sentient beings, caring about each and every sentient being, wanting to help us all become free of all our problems, all our confusion, all our suffering, and to help us achieve genuine peace and happiness. So I feel like she's someone we can rely on for that. And then on page 13, this is where you have the homage to the 21 Taras. And so we chant this as a chantable version. Om I prostrate to the noble transcendent liberator, homage to Tara swift and fearless, with eyes like a flash of lightning, lotus born in an ocean of tears, of Chenrezig, three worlds protector. Homage to you whose face is like 100 autumn moons gathered, and blazes with the dazzling light of 1,000 constellations. Homage to you, born from a blue lotus, hands adorned with lotus flowers, essence of giving, effort and ethics, patience, concentration and wisdom. Homage to you, who crown all Buddhas, whose action subdues without limit, attain to every perfection. On you the bodhisattvas rely. Homage to you, whose tutare and home fill the realms of desire, form, and space. You crush 7 worlds beneath your feet and have power to call all forces. Homage to you, adored by Indra, Agni, Brahma, Vayu, and Ishvara, praised in song by hosts of spirits, Sali, centaurs, and yakshas. Homage to you, whose train pay, destroy external wheels of magic, right leg drawn in and left extended, you blaze within a raging fire. Homage to you, whose terrain destroys the great fears of mighty demons. With a wrathful frown on your lotus face, you slay all foes without exception. Homage to you, beautifully adorned by the three jewels gesture at your heart. Your wheel shines in all directions with a whirling mass of light. Homage to you, radiant and joyful, whose crown emits a garland of light. You, by the laughter of Tutara, conquer demons and lords of the world. Homage to you, with power to invoke the assembly of local protectors. With your fierce crown and vibrating home, you bring freedom from all poverty. Homage to you, with crescent moon crown, all your adornments dazzling bright. From your hair, Amitabha, shines eternal with great beams of light. Homage to you, who dwells in blazing wreath, like the fire at the end of this age. Your right leg outstretched and left drawn in, joy surrounds you, who defeats all foes. Homage to you, whose foot stamps the earth, and whose palm strikes the ground by your side. With a wrathful glance and the letter home, you subdue all in the 7 stages. Homage to the blissful, virtuous, peaceful one, object of practice, nirvana's peace, perfectly endowed with Soha and Om, overcoming all the great evils. Homage to you, joyous retinue, you subdue fully all enemies' forms. The 10-letter mantra adorns your heart, and your knowledge home gives liberation. Homage to Ture with stamping feet, whose essence is the sea letter home. You cause Meru, Mandara, and India, and all 3 worlds to tremble and shake. Homage to you, who holds in your hand the moon like a celestial lake. Saying Tara twice in the letter P, you dispel all poisons without exception. Homage to you, on whom the kings of gods, the gods themselves and all spirits rely. Your armor radiates joy to all. You soothe conflicts and nightmares as well. Homage to you, whose eyes the sun and moon radiate with brilliant light. Uttering Hara twice and Tutara, dispels extremely fearful plagues. Homage to you, adorned with 3 natures, perfectly endowed with peaceful strength. You destroy demons, zombies, and yakshas, O Ture, most exalted and sublime. Thus the root mantra is praised, and 21 homages offered. So the mantra of Tara is on page 21, up at the top in italics. So we'll recite the mantra together 21 times out loud and then continue silently for a while. And while reciting the mantra, you can visualize light flowing from Tara's heart in all directions, filling the whole world, filling the whole of space, going to every living being everywhere, and purifying all suffering and causes of suffering, and nourishing all positive qualities that are conducive for peace and happiness, and helping all of us get closer to awakening. Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha. 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 Om Tare Tu Tare
Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha. 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 Okay, so on the bottom of page 21, there's dedication prayers. We can dedicate the merit, the positive energy, to the awakening of all living beings. We can also keep in mind that Tara has protected the Abbey for the last 20 years and pray that she will continue to protect and help the Abbey for the next, what was the number? 20 millennium? And also to bring about peace in the world. Some Dharma friends in Israel are gathering every day and reciting, doing a practice of Tara. That was what they were advised to do by one of their lamas. So if you feel a strong connection with the people in that part of the world, and you can also do your own practice of Tara. So we'll just do the prayers on the bottom of page 21. Due to this merit, may I soon attain the awakened state of Aryatara, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. Due to this merit, may the Venerable Lady Tara take care of me and all sentient beings. May we see the face of Amitabha Buddha in Sukhavati, and may we enjoy the Mahayana teachings. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Venerable Sangye Kadro. And for people who want to continue the Tara practices, you can go to our YouTube channel and find many ways that that's been guided. Dan Dimitrov, a good friend of the Abbey, came up and asked me if we could have a few minutes, and I'm just going to give him the microphone because I trust him.
Don't know what you got yourself in for. Real briefly, sorry. Okay. I'll take a moment of your time. I just to talk about my connection with Sravasti Abbey and vulnerable children. In 2001, I was sitting inside of an institution in the middle of a cornfield in central Ohio. And needless to say, I was in a pretty dark place, mentally, emotionally, and otherwise. And but there was a sliver of light, and that light for me was in 2003 when I met vulnerable children, and I took refuge in the 5 precepts. And I like to think of my time there as a kind of extended retreat in a gated community. But in any case, it was a really important, critical time. You can all see as building this Abbey how busy it was. Right around the time she started the Abbey. So this is 20 years for me. This is my anniversary of meeting children and the hope that she gave me. She took the time for the next 2 years until I got out to write to me handwritten notes personally and answer all of my questions, despite building all this, all how busy she was. And I can't tell you what a great deal that meant to me then, and how much it changed my life. And so fast forward, I moved to Spokane in 2015 to be closer to the Abbey and my teacher. And the reason I bring this up is because I don't know if you're aware, but the Abbey does prison dharma, and I think it's like over 1,000 people on the database right now where they do a newsletter and they go to prisons and teach. So when you give to the Abbey, you are giving to their, also contributing to that. And I could just tell you it benefited me immensely, and it will benefit. And the monastics do not ask for donations or money or anything like that. But I'm asking if you feel so inspired that when you do give, and there's different ways, whether through service or even if it's $1, or drop it in an envelope, leave it in the back or in the book nook, that when you do give is contributing, one small little thing can mean a lot and go a long way. And, the work that they do here is so incredible, and they rely on the kindness and generosity of others. So if you feel so inspired, there's several ways to give. Through service, through dana, through financial means, however much and for whatever amount you feel inspired to do so, please do that. Think about it, and thank you so much.